hinder you. Don't you let where you've been hinder you. Don't let what they've said hinder you. Don't you let your past hinder you. You're a woman without limits. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. A woman without limits. Yes, you are. There's nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has for you. There's nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has for you. You're a woman without limits. Woman, 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 woman without limits. Na 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 na. Woman without limits. Woman.
Unloved, pressured, unworthy, depressed, resentful, not fitting in. This was the flow in thy heart without having a father. So I began a journey to look for these things to quench my thirst.
Hello, 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 hello. What a delight to have you tuned in today on Woman Without Limits. That's exactly who you are. And don't you ever let anybody tell you otherwise. You're the only one who can stop yourself. And today we are so excited. Now I want to ask, why are men told not to cry? Why is every man told, a boy child is told, men don't cry, man up, stop it. And they are always told that. Everywhere you go, you'll always hear boys being told to man up and to stop crying. And today we have understood one thing clearly. This is all over the world. Not just in the nation where we are in Kenya right now, but all over the world. Men are an endangered species. There is so much going on in men's lives. I tell you, it is so unbelievable the way the boy child has been so distracted. And it's the plan of the enemy to kill, steal, destroy. And if you can destroy their seed, then you can destroy continuity. And that's a plan of the devil. And so today I am joined on set by an amazing, amazing man. His name is Pastor Simon Mbevi. He's been doing such a tremendous work where men are concerned. He has traveled all over. He does what you call mentorship classes for men, and we're going to be hearing about that. So he is very well versed where men are concerned, and you're about to just hear from him. Would you please say a big hello?
Hello, so glad to be here.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
It's so wonderful
Asante.
to have you.
Yeah.
And I thank God that we're going to really have a good time.
That's right. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Amen.
Yeah.
I'm also joined by a young man. This young man has a story, and he's going to be talking to us also. His name is Kairu. I've known Kairu from birth, literally. From birth, and raised him from the time he was a little boy. So I know a lot about him, and I believe that his story is going to bless us and is going to shift our thinking as young people. Kairu, would you please say a big hello?
Hi guys, thank you so much, Mom, for the pleasure. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
So I want us to have a lot of fun as we just delve deep into who a man is. And perhaps the first thing I want to ask you, man of God, Pastor Simon, who is a man?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, a man is a male person who has grown from being a boy. I should say a boy is chaotic and lacking in order and lacking in responsibility. Then a boy grows into a man, and by that time there are three things that I think would define what that person is. And for me, it's honor, duty, and care.
Wow.
You grow to a point where you're honorable, you honor yourself, so you're a man of character, your values that you stand for, your weight is really your character. So that's honor. Number two is duty. You're responsible. And you can't be responsible unless you're responsive as well towards other people, so that life doesn't rotate around you. You know that there are other people and you cannot be independent. You need to be interdependent. So that's responsibility for your life and towards others around you. And lastly is care. That you're grown up enough to know that you need to care for others, care for the people in your lives, care for your wife, for your children, for the poor, for the needy. I should say a man stands tallest when he reaches out furthest and lowest to help someone else.
Wow.
So the heart of care.
No, repeat that again. A man stands tallest?
Tallest when he reaches out furthest and lowest to help someone else and care for another.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, so honor, duty, care. I think those are the three, that's like the three-legged stool of manhood.
Right.
Yeah, that the weight of a man sits on.
Honor, duty, care.
That's right.
Now, many are not given the privilege of learning that. They are growing up and have no idea whether they're coming, going, or gone. They have no clue. Duty, honor, or what in the world is that?
Yeah.
And what would you say about those who don't even have a clue?
Well, that's a very good question, because masculinity is socialized. You've got to learn it from other people. Yes, you have the raw material, but you've got to have someone else who models that for you, but also teaches you that. What I like about women is that they're very social, very natural. It's just natural for a woman to reach out to another woman, and they get very deep about femininity. For men, unless it's structured, it's not going to get deep. We're going to talk about sports, we're going to talk about politics, and all of that, but not really get deep to what it means to be a man and what we are going through.
Right.
So I always say that there must be socialization. I grew up without my dad. He died when I was 8. And that really threw me off. Because the man I was looking up to be my mentor and the person I emulate in terms of masculinity was taken out. And it was ladies who were around me. And I really had a deep father hunger, and I know we're going to get into that. But it was until high school when a teacher, stood in that place. And I began to look at him and say, that's what I want to become. Wow. So I think a lot of men are in the forest lost because they don't see it around them and they don't have the socialization relationships to be able to learn, to hear it from other people. And I think that's mainly why we do what we are doing with the Man Enough program. To allow a man, I always say a man becomes a man among other men. As he looks around, sees what masculinity is, gets sharpened by these other men around him, then he grows into manhood. So man cannot grow in isolation. It's watching, hearing, and doing.
So the absence of a father, how does it affect a boy child?
Yeah. That's really, to me, that's very personal because I got affected that way. Growing up without a dad, I think fathers do 3 things. That's why the father-son connection is very important. I shall love a scripture, 1 Kings chapter 2. David is talking to his son, Solomon. And he's saying, I'm about to leave this place, but be strong, show yourself a man, and follow God. And he's basically trying to tell him, you've seen how I have lived.
Right.
I've made some messes, don't worry about that. Do what is right.
Emulate the right.
Emulate what is good. And when a father is not there, 3 things happen. A boy loses 3 things. Number 1 is a model and example of masculinity. Then he doesn't have that because there's no connection. So he doesn't know what to do. I mean, when I got married, I went through a lot of challenges before I could grow up because then there are some things I never saw my dad do. So I couldn't do until my wife told me, a man is supposed to do this. And so I didn't know.
Wow.
Many times the main door was not locked at night. Because I grew up with my mom. She locked the door all the time. So I'm thinking she's finishing stuff and then she'll lock the door. And she's thinking I locked. Because I didn't have a model. I didn't have someone to emulate and tell me this is what a man is supposed to do.
Right.
I saw my mom do that, so I thought women would do that. So you lose a model of masculinity. And I think number two, when a father is absent, then you lose a sense of understanding how to relate with authority. Because dad is like the first male authority figure you interact with at home. And when he's not there, then male authority becomes strange or repulsive. So that affects you in certain ways in terms of relating with that. And then lastly, you just lack the ability to know what to do. You see, there are two things dad do in our lives. Psychologists say between 8 and 16.
Right.
The voice of a father is very important because what the dad does is, number one, he gives you identity at that point and begins to tell you this is who you are.
Yeah.
Even for ladies, I think that happens a lot. The voice of a dad calls out the woman in the girl.
Wow.
So you lose, you have identity issues. I had issues like that in high school.
Identity crisis.
Growing up without a dad. But number two, lack of purpose and confidence. So I became very passive as a result. Other boys who don't have dads become aggressive. That's why psychologists say one of the greatest indicators of crime or predictors of crime is actually fatherlessness. Because boys will either withdraw or they'll go out and do something in an attempt to prove themselves because they don't have a voice affirming them and who they are. So a model of masculinity lacks identity, purpose, and lastly, for those of us who are religious, then you have a warped view of who your daddy in heaven is.
Right.
Because you call him my father who is in heaven.
Wow.
And now your father was mean or distant, and you begin to project that to the Almighty God. Because my father died suddenly, we were together, and then he was gone in an accident in a few minutes.
Accident?
Yeah, just outside our home. He was hit by a bus.
Oh.
And so we were about to eat lunch, and then he goes out, and then he's gone. And never to come back. So for a very long time, I used to see God like he's going to quit on me anytime. So my prayers were very clingy. God, I hope you don't leave me. I hope you're going to be with me. And so until that was healed, then I had projected my daddy issues to Daddy God. And that does affect religion in that way.
Yes, right.
Until your mind changes, your life will never change.
Did you know that your thoughts hold the master key to the life that you desire? Just think about it. If you want to change your life, you must change the way you think. Did you also know that experience is not the best teacher, but wisdom is?
I am so excited to be bringing to you my latest book. I'm calling it Think on These Things.
In his new book, Bishop Allen has put together a collection of power thoughts, insights, perspectives, and practical applicable wisdom drawn from his exciting years of experience. Inside the book, you will find deep insights on the power of purpose, integrity, self-leadership, excellence, the power of the mind, among others.
Truth is a universal commodity. Wherever it is applied, it produces the same results.
Your choices as a young man growing up,
Yeah.
how are they directed by being fatherless?
Yeah, that's a good point, because at times I wanted not to ask a male figure. There's this girl who says this, what should I do? And I didn't have, my son now does that with me.
Right.
So is this girl I like, what do you think I should do? I didn't have someone to tell me. And of course, it was very strange to have that conversation with my mother, even though she tried. But I think you miss the ability to be guided in certain values. I should say dads play 5 Ps. I'll just mention them.
Yes.
They are present, so being there, interacting with you, available, present. Number 2, they are providers, protectors, priests, and prophets.
Wow.
And so the priest one is about teaching you values.
Right.
And in a sense, when a dad says this is right, you sort of take it seriously because he's guiding you. He has done life for a while. So dads lay some foundations, of course, together with mom for values in life. So I missed that. There are many questions I had that I eventually learned from my friends. Of course, some of them misdirected me because they became like the men I listened to because I didn't have a man to look up to.
Right.
So I was influenced negatively in certain ways. Thankfully, I didn't go way too far.
Yeah.
God rescued me.
At
But
what
I would have
age?
gone very far.
At what age?
Well, I was 12, 13 when I met Jesus. But I was already
Seriously?
contemplating certain things. Yeah.
12, 13?
Yeah, I was in high school actually. I was crying because I was fatherless.
Right.
It was 1st June when my father died, and I'm crying, and then I just wonder, why is it other kids have dads and I don't? Then I go to the dormitory. I was in a boarding school. I sit down on the bed, and then I'm looking out, just crying. Everyone else is asleep, and I see Jesus coming, walking into the room. And immediately I knew it was Jesus. And he walks up to me and he says, "You have a father. You're not fatherless.
Wow.
I'm your daddy." And
Oh,
then
wow.
that's when my father issues got healed.
That is
And
so
I began
amazing.
to realize I have a daddy and he loves me. And that's when he told me, "You're going to be a preacher one day. You're going to go to many nations. I will father you. I will raise you up and put you into your purpose."
Right.
So he stepped in at the right time to begin to heal, but also to teach me the values and other things. So what my daddy couldn't do because he wasn't there, the 5 Ps, God the Father became that and sent a few other men to play that as well.
Right. Before we get on to why you even started Man Enough and all that, I'll get back to you in a minute. Kairu,
Yes, ma'am.
you grew up with only your mother
Yeah.
and your sister. Tell me how that affected you as a young man, and you're representing a lot of young people out there who are really, really in chaotic situations right now. Yeah. How did that affect you?
I think it started way when I was small. I think in pre-units, this is a story told by my mom. We were at a hospital and I was getting sick because of actually not having a father. I was seeing myself as less of a human when I was still small during pre-unit time. So I was not even studying. The teacher was like, "This boy is not going to go to class 1 because he's not getting things in class." Because my mind was all over about the kids who are having their dads. So I remember a story my mom is telling me. We were at a hospital reception, and I was with my mom, and I was sick. I was going to get treatment. So there's a father with a young kid like me, another boy, and he was holding khakis. I don't know, when I was young, my fascination with khakis and dads. I just saw a dad with a khaki, and I was in love with them completely. Just a khaki and a man with a beard or white hair, whatever. So I just saw the khakis and went to him. And I remember telling him, and I was shouting in the reception. And Mom is there, I was shouting. I was like, "This is your car?" "Yes." Us in our house, we don't have a father and you don't have a car." So the story told by my mom, she was embarrassed. Completely embarrassed because it was full, the reception was full.
Right.
But to me, I was so innocent because I really wanted to be like, "Let me hold your keys and let me stay with you." I want to be like the son who was running, going to the father. So I was like, it started in pre-units.
Right.
So then it progressively went to primary. So now it affected me. I started even getting sick, headaches, and I was seeing myself as less of a human because I didn't have a father. So slowly by slowly, I started getting into bad company until around, but another good thing about my mom, every Sunday, church was compulsory. By the way, an additional note, I was dedicated by Dad here at JCC when I was 7 months old. So I think my mom, due to prayer, I think I'm the man I am today because of the prayer she made when I was young. So when I was in primary, now it got to an explicit point. I was in a good school, and this good school has people with money, people who are rich, so like their fathers with Range Rovers, others with I don't know what types of cars, and me, I'm fascinated with cars and a dad. So
Keys and a dad.
Keys
and a dad. And with a beard.
Top tier, a good combination. If I had that, I was done.
Sorted.
Yeah, so in primary, I started getting sick because I was seeing myself as a less of a human. Until it got to a point I was now coming to church. And now since my peers, people my age at that time, 7, 8, were giving me the pressure of not having a father, I started joining people who were older than me because I was not feeling that pressure with them. So when I was here at church, I started to be in the company of Bella Gasheru and Kina Ben. So then slowly by slowly, I was actually even, sorry mom to say this, but I was escaping children's church because I was feeling the pressure
We
there.
shall deal with you after this.
I was feeling the pressure there.
Right.
So my mom used to come, go to main church. Then me, I didn't used to go to children's church. I used to escape until I got contact with Kinabella. And then I saw that they were older and they were not giving me the pressure I was feeling with my peers. So slowly I started to be like their smaller brother. So in class 7, I was in main church. I skipped teens church. So I moved from children's church straight to main church. And I was sitting 4 seats behind you, listening to the word. So slowly by slowly, they started building my relationship with God until in class 8, when because teens church was in second service, I used to go to teens church. And then there was a preaching Pastor Chosen said about fatherhood. And that is the day I gave my life to Christ.
Wow.
In class 8,
Right.
after listening to that word. So I went forward, gave my life to Christ, and then started serving in teens church as a photographer. So I think that is a story because I did a lot of things. And the story I skipped is because I really wanted to know who my father was. I was snooping. I went to my mother's files and I found my father's picture because I never saw him. He left when I was 3 months old. So I don't have an image of who he is. I just know his name on my birth certificate. So I saw a picture from my mother's files and I took the picture to my room. So after taking the picture, I started wanting to know more about my father because my mom is not telling me because she was protecting me, but I didn't know at that time. So I used to hate my mom because I was blaming her for not having a father. So we never used to have a relation. I used to hate her.
What?
Hate.
For the sake of your father.
Because I didn't have a father.
Right.
So I took the
You
picture.
thought she's the one who was hiding it from you.
Exactly. So I was carrying this picture everywhere. And everywhere I go, I tell them, you see this? This is my dad.
Oh.
Because I wanted to feel that I'm like
You are
other
fitting.
kids. Yes.
Right.
This is my dad. And I used to tell the story that he's in States. But I never knew him because I just wanted to feel that I was like each and every kid.
Right.
So the turning point when I was snooping, I found the divorce papers. That messed me up. When I saw the divorce papers, it messed because I snooped and it was hidden. But I snooped because my mom used to go to work and then I go to her room, I snoop, I just check for any little detail I can get about my father. So when I saw the divorce papers, it was bad because, there's a part there you can see what your mom wrote, what your dad wrote. So I was believing what my dad wrote instead of my mom. So I was blaming her for that. So since the day I saw the divorce papers, now the hate
Escalated.
Exactly.
You now hated her even more.
I used to steal from her. I used to call her names in the house.
You would like this,
Yes.
like face to face.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was stealing money like no one's business.
I recently wrote my latest book, Let Me Go, Breaking the Shackles of Insecurity. If there is anything that's plaguing lives today, it is insecurity. It has robbed people of destinies. It has robbed people of their marriages, relationships, because you cannot relate if you are an insecure person. People lose their jobs because of insecurity, lose their families, lose their businesses because of insecurity, and it has plagued many. If you get up to the level of leadership and you're insecure, that's a taboo. Woe unto the people that you're leading, because they're going to fall into serious traps just because of the spirit of insecurity. I believe with all of my heart that this is a book that everybody needs to get a hold of, because it's going to help you know how to be single and okay, how to be married and okay, how to relate with your boss and okay, how to do life and be okay. Because I tell you the truth, if you are not okay and if you're insecure, everything around you will be falling apart. And there are so many people that are asking themselves, why do I miss it? Why do my relationships always fail? Why do I always miss the mark? What am I going to do? Let me tell you, insecurity is a demonic agenda. And if you read this book, you realize it plagued many even in the Word of God. You go to somebody like Saul, he was so full of insecurity. You go to somebody like Gideon, he was so insecure. You go to many people in the Bible that were absolutely insecure, and you see yourself in it. And let me tell you, as a woman, if you're insecure, your relationships are not going to work. They are just going to be one hustle after another, and you'll think something is wrong with you. But there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to deal with insecurity. As a man, you are going to be missing the mark all the time, losing on business all the time. Why? Because of insecurity. Get to know how to get rid of insecurity forever. Get a hold of this book. Man of God, now, you know, hold that thought right there, Kairu. There are boys who are going through that. And that's why I wanted Kairu on set. So that he can now talk to us about going through that. Is it something that people can come out of? Is it a normal occurrence? What would you advise the boy child that's now in this predicament?
Yeah, I think father hunger is real. You know, I've even met men in their 60s still looking for their dad, you know, trying to call everyone who, you know, some of them stopping a man and saying, "Are you my dad? You look like me." You know, it's a psychological thing. It's a father hunger. It's a father hunger that you're longing for what you don't have. And it begins around 8, 9 years. So I would say to single moms, that's a good time to begin the conversation if a father is not there, because psychologically they begin to reach out for another parent other than their mom. And so if there's no one else, then they'll begin to have stories like those, you know, pictures of who their dad is. Just a few weeks ago, I was talking to a lady who was in her 40s. She just met her dad like a few weeks ago for the first time. She has been looking for 6 years to know who the dad is, and said, I just wanted to know where I came from, and that's enough. So I think it's a normal hunger. And some of them, you know, there's a passive-aggressive reaction to it. So some get aggressive, like hating the mom, because you feel like she's responsible for this mess that I don't have a dad, or hating God because he died, or something else. I think for me, I blamed God for a long time. I didn't hate him, but I blamed him. I would argue with him, say, God, this is not fair.
Right.
Yeah. How come they have, I don't have?
Yeah.
What's
And why
up
would
with
you
that?
take
You know?
him? Yeah.
Yeah, but you either begin to blame another person or become aggressive, and you begin to steal, drink. Many girls go into early sex looking for that because they're looking for a father figure. You know, he moved to the main church. He just wanted to be around adults. So that's a normal psychological reaction. And then you might go into the wrong kind of people. If you go to grown-up men who are drinking, then you feel like they're your dads. And that's how a lot of people get into crime. Because they're looking for a semblance of family and fatherhood and discipline. And eventually they get into that. So there's a solution for it, definitely. Number one is to understand what's going on. Understand what's going on, and then understand that you shouldn't take it the wrong way, either by being very passive and withdrawn like I was, or being very aggressive and acting out and attacking other people. And I know we'll get down to this, but one of the ways is then hang out with other men who are old enough and good enough to fill in the developmental gap of fatherhood.
Right.
My music teacher did that for me. So when he hugged me and I was in Form 2, it felt like a dad. And he had just shaved his beard, talking about beards.
Yeah.
Something about
And he had
beards.
khakis.
Unfortunately, that wasn't there. But I grew up in the village, so cars were not.
Right.
So he hugged me, and he had just shaved, so I felt the pricking of little things here, and it felt so good. I wept because I felt like he now stood in the place of what I've always longed for. So I think I would say to all the boys, look for other father figures in church or other places where you can get someone who stands in and you begin to relate with them. Then your hunger goes towards that person and not to other things, not to drinking or crime or withdrawal or whatever else.
I know that that's a good thing to say, man of God, Pastor Simon. I know that, and I hear you. The issue that we probably even need to look at is now those men
Where are
that
they?
kids are running to.
Yeah.
Do you see? Because now there is sodomy, there is that, and all those things that are going on with little boys.
Yeah.
So you're there looking for a father figure and all. And I have dealt with those cases
Yeah.
where they come to you and they say, I went to this man who really looked like he was going to help me, but he ended up molesting me.
Yeah.
And things like that.
That's excellent observation. I
Right.
think I would say either have a trusted a male mentor who is a relative.
Right.
There's some mothers who ask one of the relatives, would you be a mentor to my boy? Or would you walk with this boy? Or then in a church setting. The challenge for us churches is to organize structures where there could be available trusted men who can stand in for young men like these ones, so that we know they are available. And we have tried to train some of the mentors and make them available. So there are single moms who call us and say, I need a mentor. And say, we have one here. He is trustworthy. In case of anything, we would take responsibility. And they begin to work with the sons.
Right.
But I think we need to create more of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the program for men is to create more men, more good men,
Right.
who would be willing to father children they did not sire.
Right.
That's a blessing of life, that you
Right.
can father other people. Because I was fathered by my music teacher, I'm fathering hundreds of boys, over the years, because I want to give back what I got.
What you got,
because I really needed it.
That is so powerful. And Kairu, you would abuse her and call her names.
Yes.
What would she do?
The beating. I remember there's one night it went explicit. I don't know how much I stole, but it was a lot of money. Thousands, because she used to have a stash in her room, and I used to know where it was. So it was a lot. And even after all the troubles, I think my mom is really strong. She is really strong. If a story I've forgotten is, I used to have nightmares about my father, a father I never knew. So I was young and I was seeing my father like all nights. Because my life, every time I was going to school, it's something I used to think of.
Your dad.
Dad. There's nothing else I used to think of. Lower primary and until class 6 there. Nothing else I used to think about.
And your mom would never discuss him with you. She would not even talk about it.
No.
Would you ask her?
Yes, I did once in a while. Then she used to escape the story because now I understand she was protecting me from the story.
Right.
So I used to have nightmares of a father I never knew. And it was tantrums. I used to wake up, I cry, the whole flat. The neighbors are telling my mom, huyu mtoto wako si muhame. Juu mtoto wako anapiga makelele tulali usiku. I used to cry.
Because you would cry for real.
Tantrums. I'm seeing my father being killed, a father I never saw. But I had a visualization of a father through the pictures of a father I wanted to have. So I was seeing him be killed, I don't know where. So the dreams were bad until it was this particular night. It was so explicit. It was, I think, at 1 a.m. and I was tantrums everywhere. So I think my mom was like considerate of the neighbors. She called a friend. I remember his name is Nick. And Nick, I don't know where he was with his family or whatever. He came to take me. And he had a car.
So there are keys.
There are
There's a
keys.
man.
There's
Did he
a
have a
man.
beard?
Yes, he did. So now he came to our place at 1 a.m. in the morning to pick me up because I was crying. I was everywhere. And I remember the time he came and my mom opened the door, I stopped crying. So he took me to a place in Hurlingham. We ate near Machoma. I was okay. I came back smiling. Hi, Mama. Because I saw a man with the khakis and food, plus food and a beard. It was amazing. So I think I've taken my mom through a lot when I was young. Just because I had a visualization of a father that I didn't understand what it was.
Maybe yes,
I could just add something quick there.
Right.
I think mothers many times feel like I'm protecting this boy or this girl from this big story. But if they're beyond 7, 8 years, you're not really protecting them. At that point, tell them how much they could know.
Right.
Tell them you have a dad, it didn't work, he's somewhere. As you grow, we're going to talk about it. Begin somewhere.
Right.
Because then that hunger could turn into trauma, psychological trauma, like it did for him. He's already visualizing, he's seeing that dad being harmed.
Yeah.
At that point, it's a wound, and it could turn into a disorder.
Right.
And so it's always good to talk about it. To a degree, if they ask questions, answer. Otherwise, they'll begin to look out for that person. And there are people who have done that for years, trying to look. One lady a few weeks ago found out about the dad 10 years after the mom died. But she never gave up. She went asking all the relatives, where is he? He used to be somewhere. And she looked. Eventually, she found him. And now, when she found him, she called me crying, telling me, my mom, now I hate her, even though she is dead. Because she used to tell me it's a man who didn't want to talk to me, but now he's telling me it's my mom who always didn't want me to come into their life. So I think kids begin to think, this person here is the one hindering me from what I need. So I think it's not easy for moms, but to the degree that you can, to the extent that he can understand or she can understand, have the conversation.
Wow.
Without living.